The drive test of the Class A CDL is one of the easiest things to accidentally auto-fail. My name is Danny Crisp and I've helped nearly 350 people pass their driving test on their Class A CDL. And I know just what you need to know to pass this thing on your first try. Remember, when applying to Prime, if you found these videos helpful, please make certain to use my name and code as your driver referral in the application box. Let's do this together. Now stay tuned and figure out how to ace that drive with confidence. Let's move into that final section of our CDL test. That's going to be our drive section. So first we're going to go over some basic pointers that you're going to want to use on that drive section, and then we're going to clarify those with some footage out in the real world or by using our handy dandy dry eraser board here. So let's get to work. Okay, so that very first pointer that I always like to talk to students about is making sure that we are making those turns appropriately for this combination vehicle. You have to remember you are 70 foot long for the first time as an operator, and you've got a lot of footage that you need to be accounting for. So the first thing I coach students on is make sure you get out before you get over. This turn needs to account for these back trailer tires getting all the way up before we make our cut. If we make our turn with our steers right here, what's going to happen is these trailer tires are going to off track and they're going to take a shortcut, any shortcut they can possibly take to get to those steers. And they're going to drive over anything that's in their way. So we have to be very mindful of those. Make sure that we get all the way up before we get over. Now we've got some great footage of this left turn with 2 turn lanes. We always want to be in that outermost lane. Let's cut to that footage.
As we begin to pull into the intersection, we start wide by continuing forward to just about the center of the intersection before we start our turn, maintaining a slow, controlled speed and remembering to countersteer about halfway through the turn in order to stay wide, making sure to be monitoring our inside convex mirror the entire way to control that off tracking. And once we're through the turn, we center up in the lane and bring our speed back up to our target window.
Okay, so as we saw there, we kept our tire very close to that curb and we kept it close all the way through. It's very important to stay wide through the turn. A lot of early drivers, they'll get wide initially, but cut back in too soon. So make sure you're keeping that angle and getting all that real estate, staying as wide as you can, taking good care of these trailer tires so they don't off track. Now, after that, speaking of staying wide, we always want to be thinking about not just in our turns, but in our daily drive, our lane position. We always want to be to the outside of these little lines in the road. So when we talk about lane position, what we're talking about is right here. As we're turning to the left, we want to be further to the right. And as we start to turn back to the right, we want to set up a little bit further to the left, always staying to the furthest position outside of our turn. So let's go ahead and get some footage of what that looks like.
All right, as we can see right here, the road is turning to the right up ahead of us. So we begin early by moving into a more left position to stay wide in the wind of the road. And as we're making this subtle turn to the right, we're watching our right convex to monitor for that trailer's off track so it doesn't bump into that curb. And as the road straightens back up, we take a more centered position in the lane.
Okay, that was a great example of how to stay wide in all the winds of the road. Remember, you always want to stay to the outside of your turn. So if we're turning left, we're staying further to the right, but we're watching the inside of that trailer to monitor for any off tracking. So as you're turning left, you're staying further to the right, but you're looking at that left mirror to monitor your trailer. Both that convex and that hood are going to allow you to see all that trailer as it develops through that turn, and you can keep yourself out of any trailer trouble that way. Now, beyond our lane position, we also want to think about our speed control.
I recommend students go 5 under to whatever's posted for that test day strategy.
Now, your instructor might come up with a different strategy for you, but I find this is a good way to keep ourselves in a controlled drive. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those target speed windows for speeds you might see on your test day.
Now, it is important to remember that only 1 mile per hour over the posted speed limit will get you a point, and going only 5 miles per hour over will end the test in an auto fail. So make sure to watch your speed to stay in your target speed window.
Okay, the next thing I want to focus on is something I refer to as monitoring our mirrors and horizon line every 5 to 8 seconds. And this is all about information. Out here, our job is to gather as much information as we possibly can, because there are going to be times when you have to make a choice and the two options are maybe not your first choice. And the way to make that best possible choice is to have the most information present. So when I talk about your mirrors, I'm talking about watching that side mirror, that convex mirror, and that hood mirror to get all the information that's behind you as clearly as possible. That side, that convex, and that hood. And when I talk about your horizon line, I'm talking about everything you can see from the hood of that truck to that furthest position down the road. I'm talking about changes in the weather pattern, changes in the traffic pattern, changes in the grade of the road. Are we going up? Are we going down? Do we need to account for how heavy we are and make an adjustment based on that? Are we looking for clearance height signs? Where are we looking for weight limit signs? Are we looking for changes in the speed limit? All the information we can get. Information, because with the best information, we can make the best choice. So let's take a look out in the field and see some of that drive and see what kind of information we can pick up. Okay, so this next one's a real easy one. I refer to it as our safe stop. And what we want here is 2 foot of visibility of either this white line at an intersection over the hood of our truck, or 2 foot of visibility of the tires of the vehicle in front of us for our stops. That's going to give us about 6 to 8 actual feet when we have 2 feet of visibility out of that hood of that truck. And that's very important for us, 6 to 8 feet. Because should we get into a slide or should we be a lot heavier than we thought we were, we want to have that extra room. Here comes a very important phrase. You're going to have it for the rest of your career. It is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that has everything to do with your stopping distance and your turning distances. So always err on the side of having a little bit more room, and you're going to put yourself in a much better position to make a career out of driving. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like when we come to a stop. Okay, as we are coming to our stop, we want to first get that initial safe stop done. 2 foot of visibility, 6 to 8 foot, and then we can scoot up a little bit there to make sure we're on the sensor for the intersection. Okay, great example right there of how to get those stops in. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that we worry about a lot out here on our test day, and that something is called impeding. And it's exactly what it sounds like, causing someone to have to slow down or stop because of something that you've done. And the place this happens the most is in these turns through our intersection. So you need to remember, it takes you 10 seconds to get through your intersection. You are not a Miata. You are not a Hyundai Sonata. You got to remember, it's going to take you a little while to get through this. So get yourself completely confident and then go confidently through your intersection, making sure you're as efficient as possible with it. And if you don't have that 10 seconds, just wait. It is better to wait for 2 minutes than to wait for 2 days to have to test again. Make sure you have that safe window before you enter the intersection. So let's head out into the field and take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, when we are 100% confident we have a 10-second window, we go confidently. Get ourselves all the way out into our intersection. Once that nose is about halfway, big cut, and then be turning back out of your turn and try to maintain a safe, comfortable speed to efficiently get through your turn. Just like that, trailers in the lane, we cancel our signal. Okay, great example of how to make sure we have that 10-second window before we enter an intersection. That's going to keep us from that impeding, which we really want to avoid on our test day. Now, the next thing is something we're always thinking about as operators out here, and that's defensive driving scenarios. And it goes beyond just situations where you're watching for erratic or distracted drivers, but we're also looking for situations in the road that lend themselves to being problematic. And here's a perfect example right here. We have a blind, short merge lane, right? And if we are continuing through this intersection here, we need to be watching for any vehicles that might suddenly appear in that space. So we're not just looking for erratic drivers, but we're also looking for circumstances that could create problems for us. So let's take a look out into the field and just see what one of these would look like as we approach an intersection.
Approaching this blind short merge lane, we're just verifying that there are no drivers that we could be in their blind spot, and we safely continue.
Okay, so we saw a good example of that defensive driving situation. It looked a lot like this. It's real easy to overlook, but keep an eye out for that sort of stuff. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is not really designed to help you on your test day per se, but something you need to be thinking about as a permit holder and then as a CDL operator in your first few months, first few years, and that's how to make sure that we're driving safe and smart in all weather conditions. So anything that's going to negatively affect your traction or your visibility, you want to be making sure you bring your speed down to a comfortable speed, okay? As they say in this business, there's no load so hot that it can't cool off in a ditch. We got to drive smart and tailor your drive to your skill set. If you're in a position where your drive is not as developed as someone else's, 55 to stay alive is a great speed. Make sure you're tailoring it to the circumstances that are present. And always remember, if it's a little dicey, a little icy, you can get off the road, you can shut down. Especially here at Prime, your dispatchers are going to be more than happy to have you make the safe choice and live to fight another day, as they say. So, some basic suggestions there. Let's see if we have a clip of some suggestions or some driving scenarios there that could help us out. Okay, so with inclement weather, always keep in mind tailoring your drive like we talked about, making sure to stay safe, monitor and adjust at all times for the changing conditions that are present. Now, some basic pointers to leave with. Remember, always watch your inside convex and your hood mirror through all the off-tracking of your turns and your shifts. Always watch your trailer. Very important, and that way we can make sure that we're always staying wide. And speaking of staying wide, if we're ever turning and there's two turn lanes, we want to be in that outermost. That's going to help us stay wide. So if there's two left turn lanes, we're in that right one. If there's two right turn lanes, we're in that left one, making sure we're watching our inside convex and our hood for any off-tracking that should occur. And lastly, right lane is home lane. It kind of goes without saying as an operator that you want to stay in that right lane. Left lane is either for passing someone or if we are turning left. So other than that, it's a great place to be. Just hang out in that right lane and enjoy the ride. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these pointers that we talked about on the next page here.
All right, so we want to make sure we're always watching for defensive driving scenarios, monitoring our inside convex with our turn so we can watch for that trailer's off track. Always want to turn from the outermost lane to help us stay wide, except where it's signed differently. And remember, that right lane is the home lane. Now, want to get my CDL prep packet to help you build your confidence and ace your pre-trip driving test and backing? Well, grab it today on my website, cdlyeah.com, for only $5. And if you want my packet for free, if you're interested in driving for Prime, apply today and list my name as your driver referral. Shoot me an email to let me know you applied to Prime, and I'll send you the CDL prep packet for free. And of course, where it asks who was the Prime driver who referred you, jot down DANNYCRISP to let them know I sent you. Please remember to like, comment, and share to anyone you feel like would benefit from this material. Drive safe, drive smart, and until next time.
Imaginary soccer ball. Could you edit a soccer ball in here? Like this, 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 this. Go! All right, ready?
Oh yeah, man, I'm out here and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm gonna be honest with you.